I survived 300 days in Minecraft creative mode. After months of procrastination, the finale episode is finally here. Finally, I actually started working on this video on March, but I've been pretty busy since then. Also, this is going to be the last episode of the series because I believe the map is complete and I can't think of any more things to build. Plus, I'm very tired of building the same building style. Anyway, with that out of the way, enjoy this video. So I started today's journey at the farms by removing the oak forest to make space for future crops. But first I decided to extend a bit the city because the previous transition between the farmland and the town was literally a straight line, so I wanted to change that. I also removed the breeding place and moved the farm a little closer to the streets. After that I made a windmill dominating the wet crops and added hay and carts next to it. Then I planted trees on the last empty spots before moving back to the spot where there used to be a forest to extend the vines all over the place. I couldn't make a build in Asian style without including a rice farm, that is why I made one. I struggled a bit with the commands, but once I did figure it out, the farm area was completed and I decided to go back to the city to do what one of you guys suggested me to do in the last video, which was to add blossom trees. And that was a really good suggestion because it added so much color to the entire build, so thank you. While I was there, I also decided to change the blocks of the Torii door to something that resembles more what the city's colors are. Keep in mind that I'm not trying to be real life accurate. After that was done, I centered it back in the center of the square. Then it was time to work on another suggestion you guys left me, which was to build a castle on a mountain, and I even uploaded the time-lapse on YouTube, which has become the most viewed video on my channel. Since I've already made a dedicated video on this specific castle, I will go a little bit faster on the building process, which took me over 5 hours. So I started by making the walls, leaving a 1 meter path inside them for the soldiers to walk in, and I also added a roof to the walls. After that, I worked on the main buildings and towers of the castle and made them with plenty of different roofs before going back in the walls I've made previously to add a bit more variation. Finally, I decorated the court by adding a tree and a path and made the interiors habitable. Then I went back into our world and pasted a castle, adapting the basement to the terrain and adding a bridge that connects the lands to the main door. I repeated those changes also in the backside and added a bit more trees. I also took that opportunity to change the street lamp designs in all the map. After that, I decided to retexture the mountains in a way that made more sense before planning some paths and bridges. In fact, I decided to follow another suggestion I got from the same guy who suggested the Japanese castle, which is to build a shrine in a cave or in a mountain, which is why I decided to do both. But for the citizens to reach the shrine in the mountain in a cave, I needed some paths that connected it to the city. So that's exactly what I did, using bridges where paths could not be used. With that done, I dug out the cave with 2 windows and a main entrance. And only after that I started building the shrine. For the lore, there used to be an evil king ruling this city, and when he was assassinated, the reign was replaced with a democracy. However, nobody dared to touch the treasure, scared that the king would be summoned again. After that was done, I moved back outside to place a watchtower to guard the shrine. I also added a flag on top of it, which I also added to other buildings in the city. At this point in the build, I was feeling like the city was lacking a way to get some basic materials like meat, wood, rocks and minerals. I started with the first by building a small fishing village completely detached from the city, situated near a very steep coast. So I started by planning the streets to scale how big I want the final village to be. I decided not to do something too big because I wanted the village to feel very crowded and dense. I also added some docks for the fishers to bring their products to the land and for merchants to send those to the town. Then I worked on the actual houses, making 4 models and pasting them around to create the village. I made sure to build them rather small and close to each other. Once that was done, I added wood pillars connecting the entire village to the sea floor. Finally, I added some kelp blocks, barrels and crafting tables on the roads to make use of empty spaces. After that, I moved to the back of the castle to create a woodcutting place. I started by removing the trees and changing the ground to a mixture of different dirt blocks. Then I placed some cut logs on the ground, some bases of the trunks where there used to be trees, a few palm tree rocks, some barrels and kelp blocks to decorate furthermore, and I planted back some trees without any leaves, ready to be cut. With that done, I placed a house I built earlier to become the woodcutter's place. Next to it, I placed a car that could be used to transport wood to the city. Who knows, maybe transports other things too. Just after that, I added a cave entrance that they were going to work on later. And also a few beacons. Not far away from those, I built a crane for the butchers to transport the freshly cut logs on difficult terrains. I was a bit insecure with the materials to use, but eventually I figured them out and it turned out really cool. It's time to work on the last big section of this map, which is the cave system. In the last video I made the military secret harbor hidden in a cave and connected it to the surface in a rush. So instead I'm going to connect it to the entry we've made previously and remove the old one. Then I worked on a larger room just inside the entrance we've made previously to act as an entry point for the larger cave system. So I added an elevator for materials and stairs going down. Then I decorated the place with dripstone, amethysts and vines along with barrels as usual before progressing downstairs. Originally I planned to make a mining network, but I decided to make natural caves as they look much better and impressive. The stair arrives on top of an elevated part of a cave, which is going to become the large caves with also a lake. I still decided to make it feel like the place was used by the people who lived there, so I started mining an artificial mine and connected it to the sentry point via a bridge. After that I decided to fill in a lake and extend a bit the cave with a second section, this time above water level. Only after that I started painting the cave with dirt and moss and also different shades of grey in the walls before adding spore blossoms and lush vines hanging from the ceiling. With this cave complete, I decided to make another one next to it, still connecting it with a bridge. But before working on the second cave I added a few islands to the main one. And also added some more artificial mines. Now back at the second cave I decided to make it full of stalactites and stalagmites and added glass on the floor for a little fog effect. This cave is yet to be explored, which is why the bridge stops at the entrance and doesn't go further. Maybe I'll be brave enough to do so. Finally I went back at the main cave to add a smaller version of the crane there is on surface, but this time used to move minerals. and spread it around the cave on spikes and barrels. I also made sure to light up the cave with lamps and glow lichen. And finally, next to the crane, I'll place a geode with plenty of amethyst. Since there's still 5 days left, I decided to fix some details on the map, starting from making the forest much denser with many more trees and fixing up some painting issues. I also found a villager I'd spawned for the theater show off in the last episode. Apparently he's become a hiker. And finally I added barrels, kelp, hay bales and crafting tables in the roads to add some ambience effect. Well, this completes this video and series. I spent 300 Minecraft days recording, which is 100 hours, but all of the time that went beyond these 3 episodes is much beyond that. I want to thank you for the support on these videos. I probably won't be doing a series like this one again soon, but I'm definitely going to start building series on the future. You can also expect a full time lapse of this project with relaxing music to be released within the next week on my channel. Lastly, if you haven't already, please subscribe, it will be really appreciated. Anyway, enjoy the cinematic.